This is a short video showing how to correct the pay period on a batch or posted wage in the UAN software. Oh no! I used the wrong pay period on wages. What does that mean I have to do? First, I want to make sure you understand that the wrong pay period has no effect on taxes because they're associated with the paycheck date, not the pay period. If you use the skip deductions feature, you may have incorrectly withheld a regular withholding. You have to verify whether the wrong pay period and the correct pay period are different on your skip calendar. So only those of you that use skip deductions have this added level of review of your regular withholdings when you use the wrong pay period on a wage. The wrong pay period always affects state retirement reports and payments. That is Ohio Public Employees Retirement System, OPERS, and Ohio Police and Fire Pension Fund, OP and FPF. We need to get that pay period corrected so the state retirement reports and payments are accurate. The good news is the UAN software has a utility that quickly corrects pay period errors. Let me take you to the UAN software and show you how to correct the pay period of a wage. In this data set, it's April 4th in Training Land, and we're in Payroll, Transactions, Wages. I was in a hurry trying to get the wages completed for the April 6th payday. I added the wages to the batch and did some editing before I realized I've used the wrong pay period date. I can see it on the screen. I can just delete the items in the batch and start again. That's easy. Select the wages and click delete, and they'd be gone. But if you've already started editing like I have, you don't want to lose your work. You want a better solution than start over, and we have it. I'm going to leave my wages in the batch, and we'll do some further research. First, I check my Buckeye Township annual biweekly pay schedule to see what pay period should have been used on the batch wage. I find the payday April 6th, and there's the pay period I should have used, March 10th through March 23rd. It's a benefit to the fiscal officer to prepare an annual schedule like my sample before the year begins. Our next step is to determine if our skip calendar was affected by the pay period error. If you don't have any skip deductions established, you can skip this step. If you do have a skip calendar applied to any of the employees in the batch, you need to follow these steps to check your skip deduction calendar. We go to Payroll, Maintenance, and Skip Calendar Editor. I only have one skip calendar that affects my biweekly employees that are in the batch. If you have multiple skip calendars, perform this review on each one. Mark the skip calendar and display. I check the pay period that I used by mistake, February 24th through March 9th. There are no skip dates marked in that pay period range. Now I check the pay period I should have used, March 10th through March 23rd. In my case, no dates in that pay period range are marked on my skip calendar either. Phew! Now I know that my skip deductions are not affecting the batch wages, and I can move forward with the pay period corrections. But if you see that one of your pay periods involved in the correction is marked with a skip date, the batch wages of the affected employees should not be preserved. Correcting the pay period will leave the wrong skip deduction setting on the wages because skip deduction is applied only when wages are added and will not be updated by correcting the pay period. The software will provide you with a list of employees with skip deductions that could have errors, but your review of this calendar is going to be required so you don't delete wages that don't really have a problem. If a large portion of your employees have skip deductions that are affected, just delete the batch and start again. Remember, in my example, my skip deduction dates do not affect my batch wages, so I move forward. I'll close the skip calendar editor. We won't need that again. And now we go to Payroll, Utilities, pay period adjustment. To correct the pay period of batch wages, I have to change the default setting to batch. I click the frequency drop-down list and choose the frequency I need to change. If you have more than one frequency in the batch that needs to be corrected, you have to correct them one at a time. I'm going to select my biweekly frequency, and then moving to the right, I select my buy-in date. This is the wrong date that was used on my wages. The wages in the list appear. These are all the wages in batch using a pay period end date that matches the date I selected. Now moving to the right again, I put in the correct pay period. And select all of the wages that need to be corrected and click Post. If you have skipped deductions on any of the employees in the batch, you are going to receive this warning message, but it says it is possible you have a problem. It is not telling you that everyone with skipped deductions is affected. You have to make that check. So if you found on the skip deduction calendar that either the wrong pay period originally used or the right pay period you're correcting it to have a skip deduction date on your skip calendar, you need to print this report. Say yes. If you don't have any affected wages from your skip calendar, select no and continue. The list is now populated with the new pay period for the batch wages. If it's accurate, click Close. I'm back on my batch wages list, and you can see that my pay period end date has been updated. If I didn't have skip deductions, or if none of my batch wages were affected by skip deductions, I can proceed with my wages. However, if you have batch wages with affected skip dates in your pay periods, and you printed the list from the pay period adjustment utility, I want you to print another report before you proceed. Let's go to Payroll, Reports and Statements, Employee Reports, and from the drop-down list choose Employee Skip Withholding. Select all of your employees and print this for you. I'll display for class. Notice that this report contains every employee and every withholding and the exact skip dates that are set. So if you have multiple skip calendars, or you have some employees that do not skip, you can use this second list to make sure you're only deleting wages that have an affected skip date. We highly recommend that you delete any wages with an affected skip date. While you could manually edit the deductions that were incorrectly skipped or not skipped according to your pay period error, you open yourself up to withholding the wrong amount from the wrong employees. It's much better to delete the wage and add it again with the correct pay period so your skip deductions are accurate. So that was how to correct the pay period of a batch wage. Now we're going to use a different data set to explore what happens when the fiscal officer posts a wage with the wrong pay period and doesn't discover the mistake until later. In training land, it is now April 16th, and as you can see on the screen, I'm preparing the March OPERS report. Right away, I can tell there's a problem because my monthly paid elected officials that are OPERS members are not on the report. At UAN Support, we know that means that the wrong pay period was used on the wages, and we've provided a blue question mark that you can click. I'll click it so you can see. I'm not going to have you read it on the screen, so I'll close now. I just wanted you to see that you can click the blue question mark and nothing bad happens. You just get more information. So remember that state retirement uses the pay period end date for reports and payments. So if a wage is posted with a wrong pay period, it's not going to appear on the report as it should because the wrong pay period was used. Now I made this mistake so it would be obvious for training purposes, but you may not notice a missing or inflated wage of a biweekly or a part-time employee. It may be some time before you find this mistake, and you may have reported your wages incorrectly to your state retirement agency. It will depend on what pay period you used incorrectly, how and when it affects the state retirement reports. Also, if you continue to post the wages with the incorrect pay period, and then you keep reporting them incorrectly on monthly reports, this can become very tangled. So I want to show you a couple of things. When I'm looking at the OPR's report, next to each employee's checkbox is a tiny plus sign. If I click it, the software shows me the wages that are included in the total, and I could see if my check date, my post date, matches my pay schedule and the pay period that should have been used for that paycheck is accurate. So when you're seeing inflated or short wages, click that plus sign to see details. I'll close that, and we're going to close the OPR's report, and I'm not going to save the changes because once you save the report, it doesn't update when I correct the pay period. We would have to add it again so that the correction will appear. The first thing I want to do is look at my pay schedule so I can see what the pay period should have been. So my paycheck date was April 12th, and the pay period should have been March 1st through March 31st. Let's exit out of here, and I'm going to go to payroll reports and wage reports. And from the drop-down list, I like the wages and overtime summary to check pay periods. I'm going to mark it for the year so I can see if I've made several mistakes or only one. And I'm going to choose one employee with the frequency that's missing from the report. On the wages and overtime summary, while it produces lovely wages and overtime details, I really only need the grid on the left. So let's zoom in so you can see that clearly. I want to make sure that each paycheck so far this year has contained the correct pay period compared to my monthly schedule. So I would have that laying on my desk next to me and I'm looking at this. Well, I can clearly see the April 12th check is using the same pay period as the March 8th check. And according to my schedule, the March 8th check is accurate. That was the February pay period. The April 12th check should have had the pay period March 1st through March 31st. So now I know my mistake. I'm going to go ahead and close here. And if the wages that are affected by the incorrect pay period contains skip deductions, I would need to review skip deductions, payroll, maintenance, and skip calendar editor, mark my skip calendar and display, and then check both pay periods, the wrong one used and the correct one used, to see if any pay period skip dates marked on my calendar are within those two pay periods. I don't have any monthly employees with affected pay periods, so I can close out of there. I just wanted to show you where to go. And now we're going to go to the payroll utilities pay period adjustment utility. The software automatically defaults to posted wages, and when you're correcting posted wages, use the narrow selection by fields so you don't accidentally change the wrong wages. So the post date that was incorrect is April 12th. I'm going to select the post date first, and the frequency is monthly. Moving to the right, from the drop-down list, I choose my buy-in date that was inaccurate. And there are all my monthly wages that were posted on April 12th with the wrong pay period. I select all of them and I put in the correct pay period. Make sure those are correct and click Post. If any of the employees had skip deductions, you would have gotten that skip deduction warning. You should print the report and again verify that neither of the pay periods used had a skip deduction within their dates. Click Close and we go back to the OPR's report. When I click Add and choose my government and March, my monthly frequency employees are now in the OPR's report. So I would check and make sure everybody else contains all the paychecks they should. Looks good. and click Save. If you find your posted wages contained skip deduction dates, when you correct the pay periods, you are going to have to carefully review the wages to make sure you haven't incorrectly over withheld or under withheld a withholding from the employees. So make sure you're checking. I recommend looking at the wage detail reports, wage detail for every one of the paychecks that was originally posted with the wrong pay period. If the wages were already submitted to a state retirement, OPERS or OP&F, on a monthly report, you're going to have to contact the retirement agency, correct your monthly report so they include the correct wages for each employee, and you may find that you owe additional money or penalties depending on the pay period and what has been reported by mistake. Always work with a state retirement agency to get your pay periods reported accurately. I hope the information in this video was helpful. If you need assistance with the steps shown in this video, contact UAN support using the information provided on the screen. All UAN Housekeeping Series videos qualify for House Bill 10 training. If you have any questions about self-reporting your training hours, please call or email your question using the contact information you see on the screen now. This video is not long enough to self-report by itself. If you have only watched this video, you cannot self-report the time. However, if you watch more videos in the housekeeping series and their combined time is at least 30 minutes, you can self-report the combined time.